Welcome to Daggerheart Characters, where we go into some character design, class design, characters based on the flavor, characters based on the mechanics. And the great thing about Daggerheart is a lot of the times, flavor and mechanics work together. So a lot of the times that's also, but some characters are more about the flavor, like that I just want to share the character with you, you can make it, than about the specific mechanics. And some are more about the mechanics fitting that flavor, or mechanics fitting if you want to create, I don't know, maybe you want me to create Arnold Schwarzenegger. You let me know in the comments, and I'm like, okay, I'll create Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, we know the character. I don't need to bring you through the history of the character. Instead, it's about the mechanics of, okay, this is how I made this character. This is how I made you Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is what I think you should do if you want to do that. So this video, I just want to kind of let you know that about the channel. This video, I think, is a little bit somewhere in between because it is the day before the Age of Umbra campaign, mini-campaign, whatever, begins for Critical Role, the people who made Daggerheart. And I watched the character creation the other day, and something came up where I think, I want to say Marisha actually almost went this route with her character. They're in the Age of Umbra, which is a campaign frame that you get along with this book, and is, you know, one of the main campaign frames that you can build a world around and everything. There are these things called Pyres that these establishments are built in this, I don't know, I can't remember exactly how it's described. I think it's a post-punk Western kind of thing going on, or just maybe post-Western, I don't know, you know, end of the world type of living in the desert. Dune, I think, inspires it some type of living style, I would imagine. What's the movie? Mad Max, you know, Fury Road, just Mad Max in general, I would imagine could be some of the vibe that you could get, or at least something that you could build into this Age of Umbra world. And I thought, I got inspired. Like, what would one of these Pyrekeepers be? But more than that, that was something that I got inspired and thought about. This is not immediately after that. This is later. I also wanted to create a seraph, and I had not seen the seraph at any point. Over the last year or two, whatever, how long it's been, I've never looked into the seraph. And they look pretty awesome and cool and stuff, but it just wasn't one that I had done. I didn't spend like a whole lot of time this past year with this stuff, and until I bought the book, I wasn't able to do it once the launch happened, where I kind of was like, you know what, I really like where this game's going. And so I said, let's create a seraph. And it didn't take me long to say, you know what, I think this is going to be my Pyrekeeper. So why don't we start off there? This character comes directly from the Age of Umbra campaign frame that the Critical Role is doing a mini-campaign on. I feel like the seraph would be the type to be a Pyrekeeper. What about the story of one where their community was nearly completely wiped out, their pyre unable to be kept ablaze? So when these pyres go out, there are people, these Pyrekeepers need to keep the flame going. If the flame goes out, that's the end of that society. Obviously, people could probably then travel to a different flame, but that is what keeps, I think, the bad creatures away, essentially. In this world, I'm not 100% read up on it, but I did do just enough to keep this Pyrekeeper within lore. So this Pyrekeeper is on this, once again, their community did end up getting wiped out, and this was obviously like a person who would probably feel a little bit responsible for that, because they're supposed to keep the flame going. But they end up getting raided, and things go out. And so there is one way that you can relight a previous pyre, or you could start like a new one, but I think it's probably easier to just like relight an old one. But it's not easy to find what's called a blessed branch. You need that to start the fire, and then the fire just needs to be maintained, but it can go forever. So it's kind of like the Olympic torch. So this Pyrekeeper is on a mission to find a blessed branch to start a new safe haven. I think that's supposed to be for the remaining members of their community. Figure some of the old and the young, and just a few warriors who ran at the last second, you know, last ones who surrender was not an option, but still got away, to help, you know, rebuild this community. Probably along with others who come from other communities that have lost their sacred pyre as well. So I figure some of these pyres, you know, they must have camps where people from the outside are at least able to stay, because I think ultimately you got to work together to some extent from pyre to pyre. It's kind of you against the world, against this evil entity that also exists in this world. The kind of the power, the human power, and then there's these giant creatures as well that are threats. So you have both of those threats going on in this world, from what I could gather. This character would have been nearly, if not literally, worshipped by their community members. A divine healer whose bloodline is from the Pyrekeeper bloodline. Like, two different things going on there that are both, would be, once again, I think, essentially worshipped. So they would have had a very big burden, though, helping to heal their community members along with the duties of being a Pyrekeeper. Now, their burden is even greater than before. The future of their community, and most importantly, to the future of the world, the knowledge and the relics that are kept. So that is something that is in the writing that some of these pyres, these communities might have. Some still located at their old settlement. So I figured that they had to abandon it, but maybe they're aware that some of these old artifacts of the old world before the end of times, they still exist, and very few people, have them. Whatever, they're ancient relics. So, their community was responsible for taking care of these because they obviously felt that they were important towards restoring something of the old world someday again, would be the hope. The journey that I envision for this character is that although they're great healers and they're willing to take a blow for an ally, they feel guilty for not being more offensive. They feel like if they were able to have helped to fend off, I'm kind of assuming it was like the human people who came after him. If these pyres are supposed to, protect from the big creatures, it wasn't because they didn't keep the pyre going. They didn't fail in that regard. It's just that the community got overridden by a hoarding group of some sort, and they had to abandon once all was lost. The survivors had to abandon. But not being able to fend off the monstrosities. So I said monstrosities that attack, but then I thought, wait, what's the purpose of the pyres? I assume that the pyres keep the monstrosities away. And on that fateful day, everything changed. Weapon. I pretended like the GM allowed me to change the shield to my main hand. Okay, so I think early on, do I have backup weapons or anything like that? Early on, my style of fighting was to have the tower shield in my main hand, because you can do damage with the power shield. Actually, it has a damage feature to it. I was not a high damage dealing creature. I'm still not, that's not the main thing. Although there will be, of course, this, like I said, this guilt of not being offensive, that this character is going to have to get more offensive as they go, or that's at least part of the thought for the growth arc coming in. So they allow me to use the shield in my main hand, and then I use this grappler, which I figured I could probably move creatures side to side as well to help protect others, right? As well as pull them into myself, and then you're going to give them a shield bash, whatever, but, help to protect others. Once again, this very defensive style of fighting, but also, sacrificial defensive style of fighting. Tank, right? A tank who can pull others in with them. I'm pretty sure League of Legends has a character that's very much kind of built in that sense. So this is just the fighting style. Imagine this character would have. It's a very, very brutal, up close and personal fighting style, lower damage, high control, and protective style of fighting. I imagine that sometime between my 4th level and 6th level that this character would get more offensive and drop one of the shield or the grappler. You can actually carry 3 weapons at a time. So you would carry them both, but I don't know which one would, depending on, the play style and how everything's going, or what you're going to be going up against, probably would depend on which one. But I went with keeping the shield primarily here for what I have active here. And instead of using a weapon like a hollowed use a weapon like a hollowed axe. This is part of why I stopped pushing finesse in this build. So yeah, I was going finesse, and then I stop it and go knowledge, because I no longer needed to be able to really use that grappler too effectively, at least. And so then that's where I was able to abandon it and not put any more resources into that. Looking mid to late tier 3 game, I began to put an emphasis on getting cards that had once per rest usages, as I felt that I had quite a few card options, but not a lot of stress to work with in terms of switching them out regularly. That doesn't make full sense. Okay, well, whether or not that that logic there, sentence makes 100% sense, at least there's no 3 stressors and mostly like 1 stress cost. But yeah, that was the strategy I started to add. The main thing here is that I started to target those types of cards. And then with the tier 4, I began to avoid anything that would cost stress, which they still cost stress. Or maybe, if I recall, between these 2 domains, stress is a resource that is used a lot. And I think, I'm saying no stress, but I think what I really should have said, it was low stress types of cards. Because everything costs some stress, except for I think Bare Bones is the one that I could have grabbed that would be low stress. So, okay, those are the card choices. I have I Am Your Shield, Healing Hands, Voice of Reason. I think a lot of these are intuitive. Divination, a little bit of divination magic type of idea there. I got Second Wind, Life Ward. I went a lot more into the healing stuff with some little elements of Valor, I Am Your Shield, Lean on Me, which is a restorative type thing, so that's almost... But then Smite, Smite comes in, and that works there. So, and then Stunning Sunlight. But early on, a lot of healing stuff, and then late, Full Surge, Unyielding Armor, Unbreakable, and I went both Unbreakable and Unyielding Armor. Let's look at that. This character, this is a fun build. Okay, so Unbreakable. When you mark your last hit point, you know what? Sorry, let's start this. Okay. Seraph, life support, spend 3 hope, clear a hit point on an ally in close range. Get some prayer dice, which allow you to do stuff, alter, make things better for you instead of going bad for you. Spirit Weapon, we can do some extra damage with that. Spirit Touch, once per long rest, touch a creature. You can clear some stress and such from others. Devout, when you roll your prayer dice, you can roll an additional die and discard the lowest result. Additionally, you can use your Sparing Touch feature twice instead of once per long rest. And Sacred Resonance, when you roll damage for your Spirit Weapon feature, if any of the die results match the double up, deal more damage. I went with a Glappa, so I gained a bonus to damage thresholds equal to my proficiency. So I did take a proficiency point, so there was some nice cohesion there with proficiency and the Glappa, and could have gone proficiency again at some point if we could have. And then Retract, a Mark of Stress Mark of Stress go into my shield. I think at low levels we might have had to use this once or twice, but as time went on, I think we got strong enough, especially this final build. And then it had to go Orderborn with this one. That's really all that would make sense for this Pyrekeeper build. When you mark your last hit point, looking at this final build, when you mark your last hit point, instead of making a death move, you can roll a d6 and clear a number of hit points equal to the result. Then place this card in your vault. Reminder, we have 11 hit points. We have 10 armor slots, only 8 evasion, so we are getting hit fairly easily. Only 9 stress, but we are a tank. This is what we're built to do. And we're also delving out some decent damage along the way. But, primarily, we're built to be taking damage. Also, 30, 53 for our damage thresholds there, so those are nice and pretty darn strong. And we also have Unyielding Armor. When you would mark an armor slot, roll a d6 equal to your proficiency. So 5 dice. We have a very high chance of rolling 1/6 on 5 dice, 5d6s. And then we get to reduce the severity by 1 threshold without marking an armor slot. So we have a high chance of being able to take anything that deals 29 or less damage, not costing us any hit point marks. And anything that does 52 or less damage, only costing us 1 hit point mark. If I recall, we also have other ways that we can reduce some of that along the way. Full Surge. Once per long rest, mark 3 stress to push your body to its limit. So, this is going to be a costly feature for us. Push your body to its limit, gain +2 bonus to all of your character traits until your next rest. So if we, while we're in Full Surge, all of a sudden we've got 12... I pressed it twice. Now we've got 12 armor slots. We are dealing, more likely to hit, at least there. It does not change our hit points bonuses there, though, however. But more hit point slots, at least, and more likely to hit. I think also any spell casting stuff that we would have to do, that's going to make that more likely to land. You get the idea. And, bare bones helps that armor score and everything. And then restoration. After a long rest, place a number of tokens equal to your spellcasting trait on this card. Touch a creature and spend any number of tokens to clear 2 hit points or 2 stress for each token spent. I think, can we use this on ourselves? You can also spend a token from this card when touching a creature to clear the vulnerable condition and heal a physical magical ailment. GM may require a roll. When you take a long rest, clear all unspent tokens. Yeah, so I think we might be using this to clear stress on ourselves a lot, but also to restore our allies. Nonetheless, you get the idea. This dude or lady, I believe, for whatever reason, I actually imagine this as a lady Pyrekeeper, is super, super ready to take some beef, ready to take some hits and help out your allies and whatnot. That's the Pyrekeeper. If you want to play it, let me know. If you need me to, I'll lay that all out for you. I could do that and make that a public sheet that you could then follow as I leveled up all the leveling up traits. It says that I didn't do one, but I did. I increased 2 traits there. It just doesn't know any better. But yeah, if you wanted to see all of these decisions that I made along the way specifically, I could write that up, put that out for you if you request that in the comments. All right. If you like this, do the YouTube stuff. Let me know. Let YouTube know. That's it for the Pyrekeeper, I think. We went through the bottom there, right? Yep. Peace out.